that's why Google takes so much time to rank you, because they have to really scrutinize and make sure you are trustworthy enough for Google to say, all right, we're going to show you in the search results, because that's like Google vouching for you. And if Google vouches for the wrong websites enough, you're going to go on Bing or Yahoo or DuckDuckGo or some other search engine. Google does not want that to happen.
If you're enjoying the show, hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. You'll get the latest on marketing, AI, and how to grow your business. It only takes 2 seconds and really helps the show grow. So please hit subscribe and then continue listening. Brandon, you work at your own agency, obviously SEO Optimizers. It was initially a side hustle. So I guess I wanted to ask, like, what made you decide to take it full time? How did you know what was the right moment to take that leap? And why marketing? Why not construction or sales?
Yeah, no, I just kind of fell into the marketing world, always like advertising and like trying to the creative side of things, and went to school for business marketing.
Mm-hmm.
After I graduated, I realized most of the marketing jobs were sales jobs, which wasn't really what I was interested in. And then one of these companies said, we want to do SEO, which I don't really know much about SEO. And they said, don't worry, we're new to this as well, and we're going to learn with you, and taking you to classes and workshops. And this is back in 2007. So I decided to give it a shot, and just realized after working at that company for a few months and going to some of these workshops and events that people are saying, I have like 10 different websites, I do drop shipping and affiliate marketing. This is back in 2007. So it got me thinking that I could work full time at this job, but also I could pick up a freelance client here or there, or do some digital marketing side hustle things, and was happy to have a full-time job for a while after graduating from college. So didn't go all in on my side hustle of helping other companies out. I was just happy to pick up 1 or 2 extra clients here or there just to make some extra income. But after doing that for a while, probably like 10 years, working at different advertising agencies as a director of SEO, and before work, after work, and on my lunch breaks, I work on my own company, and kind of went all in probably around like 2015-ish, and then was able to quit my job like a year or two later. So kind of just took it the safe route, where I kind of built my company up over the years, got reviews, got kind of established, instead of just jumping ship right away, which you could do, but it's a little risky because you never know what's going to happen, especially like during 2020. I lost a lot of clients that were local businesses. I just had to shut down completely. And if I just jumped ship and lost half my clients without building my company up, I would have been in a lot of trouble. But luckily, I was able to keep it afloat, or like e-commerce brands and things like that did rely on storefront physical things, but you never know what's going to happen. So I kind of took the safer route and built it up over the years.
Yeah, nice. I think it's something that a lot of business owners probably struggle with, is like, yeah, like, because I think for a lot of people, it starts out as a side hustle and then it grows. And like you mentioned, building up over time and working late nights and working, in your lunch breaks. Like that's, I think, a lot of dedication. Um, what do you think, made you like, sorry, how do I phrase this? What do you think drove you to kind of put in that effort and put in that time? In your lunch breaks, in your evenings, what was it about working for yourself that you preferred over working for, say, like another agency?
I always had that entrepreneurial spirit in high school. Started a clothing company for skateboarding and did that, and then went to college and kind of didn't focus on that, just focused on school, which should have done both because it's getting pretty popular. People loved it. And there's a bunch of different skateboard shops around the town, but always knew I wanted to have my own company and do something on my own. And after I graduated and got that first job with the digital marketing and learned about digital marketing, I realized that I could just have a virtual kind of business. And that's what really just kind of peaked it and got it going. But yeah, I like that aspect of just no overhead. You can just start it anytime and kind of just build it up.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move too. Like, I think because starting a new business can be so stressful and so like taxing, that if you put all your eggs in one basket and you're like, oh, this has to work, it can really take the fun out of it. And then all of a sudden your focus isn't on like necessarily helping the customer or doing what's best for the business. It's like getting money through the door. And so then I find that like then you end up sort of cutting corners. So I think it's really cool to have like a full-time job or even a part-time job while building up a business. So then there's less pressure and there's less, riding on it. And then you can kind of pivot really easily without having that stress. Did you find that it was a lot less stressful in some ways? Like obviously more stressful because there's more work involved because you're juggling a full-time job and a business, but then obviously less stressful because it's not like everything's riding on this business succeeding kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, luckily I was working full time doing SEO and doing SEO on the side. And the more I learned and worked for other people, the more I just can bring to both the agency I worked at and my freelance clients. So kind of helped out each one by one, but it is definitely a lot more stressful having your own company because everything relies on you. You don't have that backup plan B of you have a full-time job, you have a steady income coming in. Now it's all on you. So I waited till I was making more than I was making at the agency and for like 6 months, not just jumping ship right away, but making sure, because also you could have like one big client and then you lose that client. You're just like, all right, now I'm in trouble and you're hurting. So you don't want to, like you said, putting all your eggs in one basket or put all your eggs in one big client and then have that fall through. So it's better to build it up, establish it a little bit more before you jump ship. That way you have that space to take a step back and breathe and not just feel so stressed, like I got to make this work. Otherwise, it's like make it or break it. And we don't want that.
Exactly. No, I think that's a good point to make, especially like in the age of AI, which is just everything's changing and everything's, so rapidly evolving. And so I know you mentioned your focus is kind of like SEO, or at least that's where you started out. I think you probably offer all other types of digital marketing now. But so in terms of like SEO, obviously is shifting big time with the role of AI and different search in ChatGPT and all these different LLMs. What do you see as being like the future for SEO, and what does that sort of look like with AI playing in that space?
That part is tricky to predict the future of SEO because it is so dynamic and it changes all the time. And there's so many new platforms that keep coming out for AI, and Google is putting AI in the search results and trying to compete with ChatGPT and all these other platforms. But we'll just have to see what happens when the dust settles. But right now, Google just dominates and still runs the show. ChatGPT and AI platforms, people are using it more for like informational, not transactional too much yet, but we'll see how that changes because it kind of just keeps you on the platform. They don't want you to really leave AI. So there's not many clickable links. Like Google, they'll give you a list of 10 websites plus ads. ChatGPT doesn't really give you too many options, but we'll have to see how that all plays out. But it is an interesting time. And really, you just have to understand who your audience is, who's your target market, and where are they? You don't have to be everywhere. You just need to be where your audience is. So you don't have to be on every platform, but kind of just picking and choosing and finding out which ones you think are where your audience are. They going to be on Google? Are they on Yelp? We can optimize for that. If they're on TripAdvisor, on YouTube, on Amazon, there's algorithms on all those different platforms. So just try to figure out where to put your focus on and then optimize against that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and something that a lot of people don't always think about, don't always realize is like, yeah, like they'll be like, oh, I'm going to go run Facebook ads. And it's like, okay, but is your audience on Facebook? And are they looking to purchase something through Facebook? Because obviously people don't usually go to Facebook to make purchases. They go to socialize, or they go to be in a group, or to look at their friends, or what have you, or Instagram being the same thing. Whereas Google is very like purchase-based intent. So it's really thinking about, and I like that you mentioned Amazon and, other platforms of like, where is the audience hanging out? LinkedIn is another one that is really good for like B2B, for instance. A lot of business owners on LinkedIn. So then it's thinking about, yeah, like where is my audience hanging out and how do I reach them? And like you mentioned, you don't have to be on every channel. And I think that there can be a lot of overwhelm for a lot of people of like, oh, I've got to get on every platform and post content 3 times a day. And it's just like, there's obviously a lot of overwhelm. So I like that you mentioned that, yeah, like focusing on like even 1 or 2 channels and really nailing those can be really like effective.
Yep. Makes it a little bit less stress too on you because trying to post on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and LinkedIn and TikTok and Pinterest and just going on and on at different social media platforms, that it becomes a full-time job trying to just post on all the platforms with vertical and horizontal for short form and long form and stories. And it's a lot to manage. So picking and choosing your battles, focusing on where your audience is. And then eventually you want to try to be everywhere. But initially you can't spread yourself too thin. So it's just like focus on where your core audience is. And then once you built it up and got a system in place, then you can try to replicate that for the other social channels and just slowly roll one out after another. Don't just go after all of them, but you should claim your profile, username on all the accounts right away. I would have just get your name, get your presence built, but you don't have to be active on every platform, but at least claim that ownership. That way someone else doesn't claim your name. And then getting a name is very difficult, trying to claim it, and then they could post on your behalf stuff that you don't want them to post, and people might think it's your brand.
Cool. And so like what is your current favorite AI tool that you're currently using in your business, and why? Like, are you using AI more for content or automations, or what does that look like in your business?
Well, SEO, there's a lot of content, a lot of writing articles, blogs, press releases, just content for your website, and AI writes content. And I still have writers that are human, but a lot of these writers are using AI. So now it's just have AI write the content and then editors read it, double check it. Because Google said, we don't care who writes the content anymore. We can't tell the difference. It's gotten too good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not accurate. So if you just copy and paste AI from your website into a blog post, or from ChatGPT to your blog, might not be the best because it might do AI hallucinations and make things up. And if you post incorrect and stuff, that's not a good user experience. But Google said, as long as the content is helpful for the reader, then we don't care who writes it. But it has to be helpful. And that means it has to be accurate, useful, beneficial, not just some copy and paste from AI. But that's a big part of SEO's content. So ChatGPT has helped out a lot with content creation, and that content ranks just as well as human written content as long as you edit it. So that's the main thing.
Right, right. No, that makes sense. And are you using, like in terms of content, are you scaling that through, say, custom GPTs or other AI tools, or are you focusing on prompt engineering? Like, how do you find you get the best content out of ChatGPT or other AI tools?
Writing good prompts is number one. Just
Mm-hmm.
saying, write me a blog post if you're selling dog food, and just saying, write me a blog post about dog food. It's going to be really generic and boring and plain versus going into ChatGPT and say, give me 5 topics about dog food. And then you get those topics, and then you say, write me an outline about the topic that interests you. And then you customize that outline, play around with it, and then you have it write the content. That way you have more control of it. But my prompts, when I put them in there, are usually like a page or 2 pages long. The more you put in there, the better and more unique and the more accurate the result is going to be. But yeah, using custom GPTs, it's definitely helpful, but just trying to really have long prompts that are as specific as possible. The more specifications you put in there, the better the results are going to be.
And do you find there's like a particular, like, do you have like a go-to kind of prompt of like, imagine you're an SEO marketer and da 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 da, or does it kind of change depending on the content you're creating and the client and all of that?
Yeah, it will vary, but there'll be some overlap, like follow Google's best practices for content. Make sure it has EEAT, meaning expertise, authority, or experience, expertise, authority, and trust. Make sure it has natural language processing. Make sure it has all these little things that Google wants and reads to better incorporate and know what that content is about. Making sure it has good titles. Make sure you put the keyword variations that mix it up, use synonyms and singulars and plurals, and just reorder it and make it flow as natural as possible. You put in there, like, make it undetectable by AI, make it in English, like little things like that. Remove emojis because that's an obvious giveaway. That's AI content. Is no one's ever going to write an article and put emojis in there. So kind of stripping that out and just telling it what you want exactly.
Yeah, I like that idea of incorporating Google's guidelines into the prompt of like using EEAT or, you know, different keyword variations and things. I think that's really smart to help it, you know, be created for Google as well and for the algorithm there, because obviously, like, it's always going to be an algorithm that's searching for it, which is really cool. And so in terms of keywords and backlinks in the age of AI, where do you think they're sitting? Like, are they still super relevant? Obviously, keywords are shifting in LLMs versus Google. Is it better to go after these long tail keywords? Is it like backlinks are still super relevant? Are they not? Like, what's going on in that space?
No, backlinks are still very important to Google and to other platforms as well, because like the AI platforms, because reading content on your website is great, but how they know it's real and legitimate. So they want to see third-party websites citing you, mentioning you. So actually getting like more branded mentions or more branded backlinks. So instead of just going for keyword backlinks, but going for like brand name and getting that just republished all over the internet. AI LLMs are going to read that content, see that, but Google still looks at backlinks as a big part of trust because you can't trust keywords. Anybody could put keywords on the website, and that's not enough to tell Google that you are really who you say you are. Like, I could build a website and say brandisdentist.com, and Google is just like, are you really a dentist? Because how do we know? We don't want to just send people to your dental office and find out you don't exist. It's a bad user experience, and that happens enough. People aren't going to trust Google. So Google really wants to make sure I am a dentist, and that means I should be on like WebMD. I should be on Yelp or Wikipedia or TripAdvisor or Apple Maps and Bing Maps or wherever websites that are niche related to you to help just build the trust.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting that you mentioned that, because I was actually talking to a client a few weeks ago, and they said, you know, like, how does the ranking system differ between ChatGPT and Google? And like, you know, because people obviously don't want to just invest all of this time and money into SEO in 2025 if with ChatGPT and different algorithms coming out. And, you know, when I did the research and I asked ChatGPT, you know, like, what are the ranking factors and what are the things? It's very similar to what Google ranks. And so I think that that's an important point for people to hear, is that if you invest in SEO, like, it will translate over to ChatGPT largely, maybe not exactly, but largely. Like, ChatGPT is going to look at reviews on like Google Maps. It's going to look at your backlinks. It's going to look at the keywords, because obviously keywords are what people are searching for. And so there's a lot of overlap between SEO in Google and ChatGPT and these other large language models. So I think that that's a really cool point for highlighting for people that they are interchangeable. And so it's not like SEO is dead now. It's still very much alive. It's just it's shifting and it's evolving, which is cool.
Yep. So he's constantly shifting and changing. But ChatGPT is OpenAI, which is heavily funded by Microsoft, which is Bing. So ChatGPT is really just Bing rebranded into an AI version of Bing. That's why Google got pretty worried, and they released their AI version a few months later because Google's been working on AI for over a decade. They just didn't release it because it wasn't there yet. And I mean, it's still, these AIs are very new and learning a lot, but Google got worried because they don't want to lose that market share to Bing. And yeah, as long as you optimize for Google, Bing's algorithm is pretty similar to Google. They're a little different with machine learning, but for the most part, they're looking at good content, good quality backlinks, any trust signals, third-party trust signals really are the big part of that piece of that puzzle.
For sure. And I think too, like obviously Google's got their own AI overview that they're populating a lot, especially for say shorter tail keywords. So, but the thing is that from when they do their summary, often they'll make references to things and those things are linked to other articles. And I was actually looking at Ahrefs and now they're highlighting, oh, like this, you're linked in this AI overview or your client's linked in this AI overview. And so just because there's an AI overview now in Google doesn't mean that SEO isn't effective, because a lot of the times that AI overview is collating data from other websites and then linking to them. So it's still, keeping people forefront and still possible to show up in the top of the search results, even within the AI overview as well.
Yep. Now you got two spots that you can take: the AI overview, well, multiple spots, but AI overview, the search for website, organic results, images show up in there. If you have any videos, sometimes videos appear. If you're a local business, getting yourself in Google Maps, Google Business Profile, and e-commerce, getting your products in Google Merchant. The more real estate you're able to take up on that first page of Google, the better off you're going to be. But the AI overviews are at the top, pushing things down, but having schema is a big part. So adding schema to your website to help you show in those AI overviews, which are just kind of like feature snippets that Google's been showing since 2011, I think. So they're just a little different, a little bit more engaging, more interactive, but it's kind of like a featured snippet.
Right. Right. And so what would you say, like speaking of AI and SEO and all these different changes, what would you advise to say somebody listening who's thinking, yes, like I want to get into SEO, but I don't know where to start. Like I feel overwhelmed. What are some kind of quick wins that you could suggest people take and implement today to help them get more visibility in Google?
More content on their pages is one thing that most websites lack, or building out more pages that target more keywords, because a lot of people just put all their services on one page if they're a service-based business, and breaking it up into individual pages for each unique service. Like I do SEO. I have a page that lists out that I do SEO, keyword research, I could do backlinks, Google Analytics, all these things, but each one of those is a clickable link to that page. And then on that page, I have content on that page that helps Google read it, supports those keywords, and then backlinks. But content and backlinks are two really important big pieces of that SEO puzzle that are going to help move the needle versus there's a lot of other stuff. There's hundreds of ranking factors, but content backlinks are really very, very important.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important point because a lot of people don't add content to their website, or like you said, like I really like the idea of, yes, splitting each service type or each location into a separate page just for more content, more pages. And so like what would you say are some of like the best practices, like in terms of, is there a specific word count? Is there a specific site structure, navigation? Like what have you seen works in terms of like best practices for people and their websites?
You just got to do more than your competition, because with SEO, it's not really a one size fits all. A lot of people say write 400 words of content for your blogs, which is a good starting point, but really you got to do more than your competitors. So you could search your keyword on Google that you're trying to rank for, and then you could open up all the websites that are on that first page of Google, and you can see how much text everyone's using. If everyone's writing 100 words, then you probably should only write like 150 words. But if everyone's writing 5,000 words, then maybe you need to write 5,100 words. So you want to try to do a little bit more than your competition, because if Google's showing everyone that has 5,000 words of text and you only have 500 words, Google's probably not going to show you. I mean, they might, but you want to try to do more than your competitors. And then you can look at your competitors' site structure and hierarchy and how they break their websites down into different categories and groupings, and get ideas from them that if it looks good, incorporate it. I mean, do research. You could research those keywords to make sure they have search volume. And if it's a good strategy, incorporate that into your website.
Nice. And so in terms of like some of the common mistakes that people make when it comes to SEO? What are some common things, either mistakes people make or things that they miss? I know you sort of mentioned like content and backlinks being kind of the key things, but yeah, are there any kind of common things that people assume about SEO or mistakes that they make that you kind of notice and it seems quite a common theme?
Well, the backlinks are such a big part of it that people either don't know about backlinks or they've heard of backlinks and went to a site like Fiverr and bought 1,000 backlinks for $20. And then I'll look at their backlinks and just see all these weird spammy sites that have nothing to do with them. And the backlinks are where you have to be very, very careful, because if you build the wrong type of backlinks, it actually does more harm than good. So it's better to have no backlinks than a bunch of low quality ones. So, but focus on quality, and quality backlinks means really it comes from a site that's related to what you're doing. And that's number one. And then authority, like how big, how popular is this website that's linking out to you? But if you're not building the right type of backlinks, no, that stuff really matters to Google, and keywords, all that stuff, they're just going to read it over and pass it by. So focus on building good quality backlinks. You can look at your competitors' backlinks using tools, like you mentioned, Ahrefs or Moz or SEMrush or any other tool out there to look at backlinks is going to help you just try to do more than your competition. Try to do better content, try to do better backlinks, and that's going to get Google to reward you with higher rankings.
And so like in terms of, I want to veer into backlinks now that you've mentioned it, but in terms of backlinks, obviously there's do follow and no follow. And I think that's an important distinction to make for people, because obviously like no follow links don't pass on the juice, whereas do follow links do. So I know a lot of like these kind of PR campaigns, websites are like, oh, get all these backlinks, and they're not actually they're like no follow links. So they actually don't mean anything. But what would you recommend as like a backlink strategy? Obviously, there are lots of companies out there who do paid backlinks. Some obviously are more legit than others. Do you recommend any sort of paid backlink strategy, or do you recommend just authentic, legitimate backlinks, whether that's from a podcast or a guest blog, or what's your kind of recommendations around building a backlink profile?
The backlinks, you want to just try to keep it as natural as possible. And, do follow, no follow. I wouldn't overthink it, because naturally a website or any website should have do follow and no follow backlinks. If all your backlinks are do follow, that probably tells Google you're doing some SEO and trying to manipulate and game the system. But if you're buying backlinks, which I know, like I have clients that pay these PR companies to get in like Forbes and Wall Street Journal, and they're paying thousands of dollars. And it used to work really well until like these websites put do follow, no follow, or they'll have a do follow backlink, but it's on a no index page. So it's being blocked by Google. And I tell people like, hey, I mean, it's fine to do this PR, like everyone does it. Unfortunately, you can't really trust anything online. It's all kind of pay to play, is what I've learned over the years, that most websites are all kind of pay to play. And I don't really trust anything online. But if they are spending money on those backlinks, some of them are insistent on it. I'm like, all right, these ones are no index. Like these pages, they're do follow backlinks, but they're no index. They're being blocked by Google. Maybe don't spend $2,000 on it. Maybe take that money and spend it on like a different website. But most websites are no follow because they've been spammed so much, like Huffington Post or Wikipedia, social media, anywhere where it's too easy to get a backlink, it's going to be no follow and not going to count. But they still read the text and they'll still see that you have a backlink, that your website's listed on the website. So it counts as like a citation, which is nice, but it's not the same as a backlink. Backlink passes on a lot more SEO value to Google.
Yeah, it's something that I've noticed a lot of people be like, oh, as seen in Forbes and, all these different platforms, and they makes them look really legit, especially if they're in the biz op space or they're an online coach or something, and they look like really legit. And it's literally something you buy from these PR campaigns, but they're like, technically the article has been posted, but like you mentioned, it's a no index, or it's a paid placement. So it's not legitimate. And I just think that's misleading and unethical to put, like as seen in or trusted by. And I understand it's like legitimate in a way, but it's also, like you said, pay to play. So it's like you mentioned, not trusting anything on the internet. And so in terms of getting these legitimate backlinks, what do you recommend to people? Like, is guest blogging, there's obviously a lot of blogging sites that do guest blogging where you get a feature and you get a backlink. Podcasting's another one. Like, what are some of the strategies that you recommend in that space?
Yeah, no, keeping it natural, like guest blogging is fine if you pick and choose quality over quantity with all this stuff. So finding good quality websites that are very relevant, related to you. Then if you reach out to them and see if you could get editorial status and write for them, that is great. But also podcasting. So I do a lot of guest podcasting. I have my own podcast and I still kind of do it a little bit, but guest podcasting is a lot easier because I don't have to edit. But the best thing is I get a backlink, because if you have a website and you share it on your website, then I get that SEO backlink from your website. If you're just sharing it on YouTube or Spotify, it doesn't really help out for SEO. But so kind of picking and choosing, same thing with all this stuff, quality over quantity, and a few good quality backlinks are going to help move the needle much more than a bunch of low quality backlinks. If you're a local business, you could join like your chamber of commerce and all these local kind of the BBB and local trust signals that Google will see from MapQuest or Apple Maps and Bing Maps and Yellow Pages. So just trying to think of like what looks natural, what's authentic. If you're just spending money on PR campaigns and getting a bunch of PR backlinks, Google knows you just kind of pay for PR distribution. And I mean, most websites will do PR, but if that's all you're doing, it looks a little strange. So just trying to mix it all up.
I think that's a good point. And I like that you mentioned directories as well, because there's in addition to local directories, there's also, depending on your industry, potentially software directories. Or if you use specific software in your business, reaching out to do a guest blog with them as another way to get backlinks. And so, especially because a lot of my clients are accounting firms, I help get them listed in all of these accounting software directories. And so they have a profile of, look, we're an accountant bookkeeping firm, blah, blah, blah. And because there's so many different accounting software platforms, that's another way to just get a few natural backlinks. Again, like not overdoing it, but like, if it's like legitimate, which it is, you put up a profile, you put your phone number and your website on it. That's just another trust signal, which is really cool. And also like Google Maps and the reviews, I think are really important. You mentioned that earlier about like trust signals. And I think that's basically all SEO is, whether it's backlinks, content, reviews, like it all seems to be signaling the trust level to your customers and to Google. And the more you can cover those trust signals, the better you're going to do in the long run.
Trust is number one because Google does not trust anybody, and they don't want to rank a website that they can't trust because Google relies on providing the best results. And if you search and click on a website on Google and it says you're going to a website that sells shoes, and then you click on it and it goes like a pharmaceutical page, you're like, what's going on, Google? Why are you showing me this pharmaceutical page? I'm looking for shoes. And this happens all the time. It's like baited switch. These websites rank for keywords and flip to another website. And that's why Google takes so much time to rank you, because they have to really scrutinize and make sure you are trustworthy enough for Google to say, all right, we're going to show you in the search results, because that's like Google vouching for you. And if Google vouches for the wrong websites enough, you're going to go on Bing or Yahoo or DuckDuckGo or some other search engine. Google does not want that to happen.
Yeah, it's like thinking about, okay, Google wants people to keep using Google. And so how does it do that? By giving people good search results. Okay, and then it's like, okay, what's a good search result? And it's like something that answers the problem of the user or provides a solution. And so I like that you mentioned that, of just being really transparent and being like, this is what we're doing and this is why, and really communicating that effectively to the customer. And I think, a lot of people kind of skip out on that and sort of just, like you said, like maybe they do keyword stuffing or paid backlinks or whatever, but it's almost like if you put the time and effort in, Google will rank you. It might take 6 months, 12 months, just depends on the industry. But, and once you've got that trust from Google, it's easier then to rank more and more content under your domain banner or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta just be patient. It's not immediate, but once you built it up, then yeah, they're going to start. Anytime you add a new page or a product or a service or a blog post, they're going to rank that a lot faster than if you don't have any trust. So take your time, but look at Google Analytics or Search Console and look at your traffic. And if you're just seeing it slowly move up, that's what you want to see. I mean, sometimes you'll see a giant spike, but that doesn't really happen too often. So focus on just slow, little incremental wins. And then over time, you're just going to see that traffic growing and growing and growing.
Yeah. And it's very satisfying when it does.
Yep. That's the best part. Seeing that hockey stick of that growth. And a lot of people think it just goes viral and you're just going to shoot up overnight, or like with social media. But I mean, it happens, but it's not a commonality.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And so for people who need to, or want to rather, future-proof themselves in this age of AI, like what do you recommend, like in terms of, should they go out and learn AI? Should they go and learn SEO? Like what would you sort of recommend to people who want to stay current in the SEO space or the marketing space with AI?
Yeah, no, you got to learn how AI platforms are ranking, incorporating schema into your website, but it's all kind of the same best practices for Google. So just in general, you're always trying to stay up to date with all the latest changes, because Google changes daily. All these platforms are changing daily, just little changes, but every once in a while they have big algorithm updates, and just trying to always see what they're looking out for, what's on the radar for the future, or what should you avoid doing but just in general, as long as you're not doing anything that seems like you're hiding or manipulating the results, I won't worry too much about those updates. But in general, you just have to always be reading, learning, testing, trying things out, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and what works. Great. Let's go and keep going up with this.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important in, well, I guess any age really, but especially with AI, is just keep learning, keep educating, even if it's like 15 minutes a day, you read something about AI or something about marketing, like just rather than trying to cram in hours on a Saturday, like just do like, yeah, 10, 15 minutes each day, or like on your lunch break, like you mentioned you did, or finding these pockets of time to just, like when I'm cooking dinner, I often listen to a podcast, or, while I'm eating dinner or whatever it is, going for a walk or on public transport, if you have that where you live, like really finding these pockets of time to learn, so that if you are working full time or you do have a business and you're just maxed out with time, you can still find ways to learn and grow, which I think is really important.
Yeah, just find those little moments. Driving in my car, I'll throw a podcast or audiobook on, and yeah, just always trying to keep learning and growing. And sometimes you don't have time, but cell phone makes it so much easier, where you can just have something saved on your phone, or a YouTube video, you just pull it up and just keep yourself engaged and knowing what the latest trends, what's going to happen potentially in the upcoming days or weeks, or what are people avoiding, or which new platforms might be emerging that are launching that you might want to grab a username before anyone grabs yours. And it never really ends with digital. The only constant is change, and it keeps on changing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, like just testing and playing around and having fun. Like I think so often, like I find myself being like, oh, I've got to do this thing. And then it's like, how could I come at this from like a playful angle? Or like, how could I have more fun doing this? Like, why does it have to feel like a chore? What would it be like if I made it a game or experimented with it or brought more curiosity into it? And then it becomes a lot more fun rather than this thing I have to do. And so, testing and trying things out, figuring out like what works for you, and that might be a different tool to what works for someone else, and using these tools in sometimes non-business ways, like talking to it like a friend or a therapist, just, or asking it questions, just to kind of break out of the mold of this is what it has to look like to use an AI tool, or these are the only prompts I'm allowed to use, and this person said this prompt is the best one. And to really break out of that rigidity and just have fun and just play and test and try things and just see what feels good and what you enjoy. And if you enjoy something, you'll be much more likely to use it and learn and, educate yourself in that. So I think that's cool too.
Especially finding something that you're passionate about. So I love skateboarding and started that high school clothing company for skateboarding. Then like 5 years ago, I was like, helped out, or like 8 years ago, realized I've been helping all these companies out. Why don't I follow my passion and just make a skateboarding page on Instagram as a little passion project, and run my marketing on that, and got to grow to a couple 100,000 followers. So it's like, that's like my little side passion project where I'm like, all right, this gives me joy. I mean, I still love SEO and helping businesses out, but sitting behind the computer all day, it gets a little tiring. And then when I could switch it up and like, all right, let me go for a few minutes and work on this skateboarding page, and let's look at the content and tweak it around. And that helps people kind of get out of the funk where you're just like, all right, I really want to do this all day long, but it is nice to help businesses and it's fun and I like it. So, but finding what you're really passionate about, I think, is a good way. Instead of just going for something that's going to make you money. A lot of people jump out of school and be like, all right, this is going to pay me the most money, but is it going to be fulfilling? And you're going to have to do that for 40, 50 years. Do you really want to be stuck with this for the rest of your life? Or maybe just go for what you know might not be the most lucrative, but in the long run, it's going to fulfill you much more and make you happy and give you joy. And I think that's much more important.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think especially when you get into the corporate world or into working, you're like, oh, this is like a big chunk of my life to spend doing something I'm not passionate about. So I think that, like, not that it's just like go follow your passion. Like, it's like you mentioned, having a business or having a job, but then also having a passion project. They're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to do one or the other. You can do both. I actually did something similar. I made a website with tax resources for digital nomads, because obviously I live overseas in South America, and I wanted to give people tax information about how to reduce their taxes and what do you do when you're living overseas and you're a citizen of a different country, because that's just something I'm passionate about. And it's been really fun, like writing blogs on helping digital nomads, and then also like seeing behind the scenes of, like checking the keywords I'm ranking for and checking my backlinks. And like, it's really fun. Like, it's fun doing it for a client, but it's different when it's your own business, like you mentioned with your skateboarding page. So yeah, I can definitely resonate with that. And it's very cool to kind of be hands-on, and it's like, oh, you can have more freedom to just do what you want when it's your own thing versus when you're doing a brief for a client. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and less pressure too. Whereas like skateboarding, I'm like, I don't have to I want to break even. That's the main goal, is started selling products with it, but it's not like I have to sell it. Like, it's not, I mean, I want to get the name out there and build it up, but that's just my little side fun project, and we'll see what happens over the years, just little by little, like with SEO, little by little, planting those seeds, planting that foundation, and then over time it just grows and grows and just naturally builds up.
Exactly. That's super cool. I like it. I'm excited to, see what happens with your skateboarding business, especially because that's really cool. And so, for people who want to know more about what you do in the marketing space, and maybe even your skateboarding business, what is the best place to find you online?
Well, I actually created a special gift for everybody.
Okay.
If they go to my website at seooptimizers.com/gift. That's SEOOPTIMIZERS.com/gift. And they can find that gift there along with my contact information and classes I've done over the years. I've done it for free so they could see step by step how to do a lot of stuff that we talked about earlier today. And also, if they want a website analysis, I'm happy to check it out from an SEO point of view, and they could book some time on my calendar for free there as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. This has been really fun. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks for having me on.